Hello, welcome to Time to Talk. I'm Argie Holliman, and today is Wednesday, February 28th, 2018, and we are so glad that you could join us live once again today. Today was a wonderful day, a lot of sunshine, and just the temperature was much higher than it's been, but every day that we wake up is actually a wonderful day. And I love the sunshine, but we know we also have to accept the rain as well. And here to talk to us about when times and issues and things come up in our lives and we see it as rain, how to get through the rain. We have with us today Dr. Kimberly Kennedy, who is, I say, a living miracle. Oh. Dr. Kim, it's so good to have you with us today.
It is awesome to be here.
Thank you so much. And you're looking wonderful and looking beautiful.
Thank you.
And, you know, I always appreciate, I've known you a long time.
Oh, my gosh, about 25, 26 years.
Yes, yes. You were the labor coach for my very first grandbaby, Symphony.
Yes.
Symphony Bowles. She's 24 now and has a baby of her own. That's 4 years old. So time moves on, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yes, it
really does.
It does. And we want you to share your life experience with us because your life is just absolutely incredible with the things that you have been through. And when people hear your testimony, I believe they're going to say, I have nothing, nothing to complain about, because you have a very positive attitude. I'm going to start with giving people a little bit of background information about you, and then you're going to pick it up, and then we also have a video.
Yeah, I think we have a couple videos back there.
Yeah, we got a couple of videos back there. So that's great. So you were born and raised here in Grand Rapids.
I was, yes.
You were actually born in a home in Heritage Hill, in your family home.
Yes, actually my grandmother delivered me.
Wow, that is too cool.
It is, isn't it?
Yes.
I just thought that was like, wow, that who would think that I would be born at home. My mom thought, oh, you know, she just had to go to the bathroom. And next thing you know, she's like, oh my goodness. So my grandmother was like, okay. She said, let's go in here. And I always thought that was just some type of cliche, you know, when they say, oh, go boil some water and get some tiles.
Yeah.
But that's what she told my uncle. And then she told my aunt to go sit on the porch and wait for the ambulance. You know, they had called 911, but I got here before before they arrived at the house. So my grandmother had delivered me in the back bedroom.
You had things to do.
Yeah.
You had a destiny.
I did.
You had a destiny.
I did.
And then you went to City Middle High.
Yeah, I did. I went to City High School.
And then you enlisted in the Navy at age of 17.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
And you stayed in the Navy for
10 years.
10 years.
I did.
Stayed in the Navy for 10 years. And you actually had a really great time.
I enjoyed myself.
In the Navy.
I really did. I was aboard 2 ships. I was aboard the USS Holliman AS-32 out of Charleston, South Carolina. And then I was stationed on the USS Emory S. Land AS-39 out of Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay. Okay. And for a time you were stationed in the Bahamas, or you all went to the Bahamas?
We went to the Bahamas.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was aboard. Both the ships were subtenders, and so we have Marine detachments aboard, and they have to get their quals. So we have to go out to sea, you know, in order for them to get some of their quals, and then we end up going to some really great places. And so my first 6 months in, we went to the Bahamas.
Okay. And then you're a mother. You're the mother of twins.
Yes.
To a boy and a male and a female, boy and girl. They're adults now.
They are.
Okay.
They're 31. They'll be 31 in March.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you have a son, another son.
I call my parent a single.
A parent a single.
Yeah.
Got it all taken care of. And the grandmother of 5.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm having a moment.
And so that
I
must
just
be,
love them. I call them my glam babies.
And so that must be a joy for you. Now, over the years, you've had a lot of medical issues.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about those. And like you had a tumor
In my head.
in your head,
Mm-hmm.
and you had 5 surgeries.
Five. Yes.
For the tumor.
Yes.
They kept trying to get it and went in there 5 times.
Yes.
Each time they did that, you
No
were
anesthesia.
awake.
Yes. No anesthesia.
No
just,
anesthesia.
Just lidocaine. So they had 20 lidocaine. They just stick these long needles in my head, and that was it. And they start cutting, and they ask you a ton of questions. You know, what's your name? Who's the president? You know, things like that to make sure that you're not having a stroke. So, no anesthesia.
And why didn't they use any anesthesia?
To make sure that you're still functioning. They need to make sure that you're not having a stroke. They talk to you the whole time.
And how many hours would that be?
They were somewhere between 2 and 3 hours.
So they're
Between
talking and talking to you.
Yes.
And was
Yes.
it painful?
Not until afterwards, but like my 3rd head surgery, I had a lot of scarring. And so the lidocaine wore off quicker than it would. You know, they weren't expecting to have that much scarring when they went in the 3rd time. And so the lidocaine had worn off, and I could feel them cutting my head open. Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine something.
Yeah, I could feel them cutting my head open. On the first surgery, they had nicked an artery when they went in there, and the blood just, all of a sudden, I just felt all this blood coming down my face, you know, and in my mouth. I said, oh my gosh. And I could hear them scurrying around, and I guess the first thing I just thought was, I hope I had done enough to leave an indelible impression upon people if this was my time to go. And all I could think about was, this is probably how Christ felt when they put the crown of thorns in his head and the blood came streaming down. And I said, well, God, I thank you, because I'm in a sterile situation. And I said, he wasn't even in any place sterile. And I just said, if it was my time, I hope I had just done enough.
How were you able to face something like that? For me, you never know what you'll do, but doctors, you're going to tell me, we need to go in your head, and we're going to do it, and you're going to be awake while we do it. I don't know that I could have faced that the first time, let alone 5 times.
And when I think about it, I think I get emotional. And I said, I don't know how I did it. I believe that it was my faith in God.
And tell us about when you started to need a wheelchair, because that hasn't been all of your life.
No. When I had the 5th head surgery, he had a difficult time trying to close my head back up. And my body was rejecting the stitches. And so they ended up actually putting some glue in there and trying to, close it. And I started having trouble swallowing. And so I had gone to the doctor. It was like 2 weeks after my 5th head surgery, and they found some nodules on my thyroid. And they called me on a Thursday, and they said the test came back positive for cancer. And I said, I can't believe this. Are you serious?
After all you've been through?
I said, I just had a head surgery 2 weeks ago. And they were like, we need you in Ann Arbor on Monday, and surgery is at 6 a.m. I said, wow. I mean, I don't think it was real to me. And I said, are you sure? They said, we're positive. And so got on the road and went to Ann Arbor, had the surgery, and the nodules were so big, they were on my vocal cords and on a main artery here, and on the thyroid and on the parathyroid. So they had to take all of it out. I wasn't able to talk for almost 3 months. And so I had the head surgery in April, had thyroid cancer surgery in May, and then in September, I had a stroke. And that was all in 2013. So it all happened together.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Do you know what caused the tumors?
No, they never figured out why. I mean, we thought that maybe the home that I had been living in had mold in it. It had an underground sprinkler system, and the water was backing up into the house, and it was in the walls. And so,
Mold can do all that?
you know, they kind of toss things around. I guess that's the best way I can say.
Yeah.
And everybody looks for an answer, and sometimes there isn't an answer. And we just have to accept that. And they, in the medical community, they just said, you know what, you're just our little medical anomaly. We really don't know. We can't give you any particular answers. We just know we have to do what we have to do. And you just go through it.
We're talking to Dr. Kimberly Kennedy. Her doctorate is in theology from Midwest Theological Seminary.
Yes, and I actually did my doctoral dissertation on disabled to become available for the master's use. Just really talking about some of my experiences and others, because a lot of times when something happens to us, the first thing we want to do is blame God, and everybody around you. I think that was the first question that I was asked, well, what did you do wrong? And there's a scripture that says there was a young man who was blind from birth. And they said, well, who did sin, Jesus? And he said, nobody sinned. It was just so that my Father could get the glory. I believe that anything that we go through is 10% of the situation and 90% of how we respond to it. My doctor had said, you need to surround yourself with a team that's going to encourage you. And I said, okay. And he just said, really, for you to get through this, it's really going to be up to your attitude. And I said, okay. And he said, the more positive you are, he said, the better your outcome is. And he said, you need to surround yourself with a group of people that can be encouraging and keep you going. And so that's what I did.
Were you given a name for the tumors at all?
A name for?
The tumors, like what kind they were?
The one that was in my head, they said it was called a congenital nevus, so that it was there when I was born. And they said normally it grows and they take them out anywhere between the age of 2 and 4 years of age. But he said he didn't know why mine just started growing as an adult. And he said he had just never seen one that size. So this was their first time having to deal with this size. And he asked me, did I trust him? I said, no. He said, what, really, you don't? And I said, no. And I said, but I serve a God that I know he will give you what you need to do in order to perform the surgery.
Amen.
So what they were gonna do, it was called the moles procedure. So if you have a mole on your body, they go 2 times wider and they go down 2 times deeper. But because it covered my whole head, he said we'd have to take off half of your face, all of your ear, and all the back of your head. He goes, so I can't do that, and I can't put you back the way God made you. So he says, I'm gonna talk with a team of doctors that I know and see how we can do this. So what they ended up doing was making football-shaped cuts in my head so that they could pull my head back together. And I had so much fluid in there. They also said I had a condition called lipididymis alopecia because all of my hair fell out when the tumor began to grow. And he said what happens is that you have, it's called a thickening of the scalp where it doesn't retain the hair. And there's like fluid that was in there. So it actually gave them the extra skin to be able to pull my head back together once they started cutting.
That is just amazing. Amazing. That's why I'm entitling this, a living miracle, because it's the wonder that you're still here.
Because if you look, if you can look down, if you look, you can see the scar.
Yeah, I can barely see it.
And you can see that half of my head is missing.
Wow.
So if you look, you'll see that this side is smaller than the other side.
Wow. And so how did that, we're going to go to a video of you speaking at an event, and you can tell us more about that event, but how did that affect your self-esteem? I mean, you got half a head, you're going through all these issues and pain and things that maybe many people have never heard of or been through.
It starts from the inside. You have to make a decision. And after when my hair started to fall out, I was embarrassed to go out at first because people are cruel and they say some of the most ignorant things to you. It was in the wintertime when my hair started to fall out, and I had a person come up to me and say, you're so stupid. Why are you gonna cut all your hair off in the middle of winter? And then when I showed them the scar, they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was just like, sometimes we need to think before we speak.
Right.
And that was hurtful.
Very. I can imagine that it was very
hurtful. And when I think about some of the things that have been said, but I woke up one day and the Lord just said to me, I don't care how you feel, because I was still raising children. Mm-hmm. They still needed me, and that's where my motto came up. It's like, no matter how you feel, you got to get up, you got to dress up and never give up, and you got to show up for life. And so since I didn't have any hair, as you can see, I have these really nice long lashes on.
Yes, beautiful.
And so that's what I did, is that I started to, my lashes got a little bit longer. They had some little designs and color. And I chose to show up for life.
Okay.
I chose to show up for life.
You chose not to isolate yourself and be ashamed of yourself and give up and feel sorry for yourself.
That's right. So I said, no matter what, I got to get up, I got to dress up, never give up, and I got to show up for life, because there's people who need me. My children needed me. It was hard on them. My son, he played football for Forest Hills Northern, and I remember the first time I went up there to pick him up, and the kids were all laughing, oh, look at that lady, with that bald head. And my son said, that's my mother. She has cancer, and she's having surgery. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. But it was wonderful, because I think that when things happen, it's a teachable moment, and it's always an opportunity to educate people about life, about protocol, being kind, because sometimes we need reminders, and so I loved how the whole community of school surrounded us during that time. And we would have what we call head surgery parties. They would come, they would bring gifts, bring food, and we would just laugh and talk so that I could stay, pepped up, because of course I'm going in this surgery without any anesthesia. So it was like, I loved it. A lot of the parents and the staff would, during each surgery, they would take turns bringing meals to my home. So it was a way to bring a community together.
We're talking to Dr. Kimberly Kennedy today, and she's just sharing her testimony of strength and, the way that you're facing everything that you're dealing with is so encouraging to other people. I know it's encouraging to me. What we're going to do right now is to see one of the videos. Now, Kimberly also goes out and she speaks. She's been a presenter on Laugh Fast, looking at what's funny about disabilities.
Living with
like,
a disability.
What do you mean, what's funny? Ain't nothing funny, but there are some funny things.
I tell people that when you're in a chair, you have a different perspective. I'm always at Heine level, And one of the things I say, I don't know why a 35-year-old woman wants to wear a 2-year-old's panties. I'm like, woo, people wear this.
Okay, and you can see that up close.
You see some interesting things when you're, in a wheelchair. So,
tell us about the video that we're going to see. The one where the gentleman is introducing you at, I think it's a major dinner.
Yes, it was. disability advocates, well, I guess we can back up a little bit. I was in a program to go to school through the VA that they were paying for. And once I had the stroke, they switched me into the independent living program. And part of the independent living program, they pair you up with disability advocates of Kent County, and you get a peer support person, and they basically teach you how to be handicapped. And I was like,
Okay.
I said, okay. And every year they have a dinner that one raises awareness about disabilities, and they honor a company in the community that embraces disability, provides jobs, or they go above and beyond for those with any type of disability. And so they get an award, and then they always have an impact speaker. And of course, it's $100 a plate dinner, and it's held at Frederick Meyer Gardens every year. So for 2016, I got to be the impact speaker.
Okay. All right. And let's go to that video now. We're going to hear you
Okay.
right now as the impact speaker.
Nope, that's the wrong one. That's Laugh Fest.
Okay.
Awesome experience to do Laugh Fest. I know that this is a major event that happens every single year. They have other comedians such as Sinbad that come to Grand Rapids and do this, and to be a part of the lineup with disability advocates has just been just a major blessing. Especially when you feel as though when you're disabled that your life is over and you're treated as such, and to be able to talk about the real and funny side of being disabled, because there are some funny sides to it, when you really think about it. So this was just awesome to be able to do.
That advocacy is so important both in their lives and in giving back to the community. First of all, I would like to introduce to you Kimberly Kennedy. She is a veteran. Thank you for your service, by the way, Kimberly. Thank you. She is a veteran who has utilized the Veteran Support Services, Occupational Therapy, and Adaptive Home Solutions Program and Accessibility Reviews. It's my honor and privilege tonight to welcome Kimberly to share her story with us.
Ten years ago, the same son that wheeled me up here was wheeling me and holding my hand down the street. I had been beaten within an inch of my life, and my face they thought was broken. My eyes were swollen shut. And he walked me by my hand up and down the street until he found a police officer, and he flagged him down and said, "My mom needs help." That was okay. It was painful and it was hurtful. But what was the most hurtful for me was when I had my stroke. It was exactly 3 years ago today. It affected my entire left side. And the first time I had to ask somebody, "Can I get a ride?" And they looked at me and said, "I gotta take all that wheelchair and all that other stuff too?" Well, I don't know if I can do that. That cut me deeper than the blows to my face. It cut me deeper than the blows to my body that I had taken on that night when my son had to hold my hand to find the police to save my life. So to walk into disability advocates, or I should say to roll into disability advocates, the first thing that they did was give me that feeling of being a burden to somebody. They took that away. They took that away. the obvious is not always so obvious when it doesn't matter to you. How many times do we walk past people who are in a wheelchair and we want them to get out of the way so that we can get in the door, but you see them struggling and you don't hold the door? And I've learned a lot in these last 3 years. I want to say a special thank you to Trina Edmondson. She is the veteran coordinator at Disability Advocates, and I was participating in the voc rehab program through the VA, where they try to retrain veterans who have come back from service that need to be retrained and had medical discharges. And so when I had the stroke, I was no longer eligible to be in the program, and they said, we have another program, it's called Independent Living. And I said, okay, and I felt as though they were placating me, they were sending me out to pasture. They said, there's nothing else left for us to do for you. We can help you with your everyday living, what they call it, activities of daily living. Other than that, just enjoy life. And they said, we're gonna send someone to walk you through on how to be handicapped. And I had to stop and think about that one for a minute. No one teaches us how to be capable. Imagine someone have to teach you how to be uncapable or handy capable. And so I said, okay, they have jokes. They sent Trina, and Trina is visually impaired. So I said, she can't see me. She can't see my situation. And my first visit, I had to come into the office, and I assumed that she would have this, maybe 5 things in the office, and I told her this, so she already knows. She had the messiest office. It was stuff everywhere. And I was supposed to participate in a Veterans Memorial Service, and we have what they call the missing man table. And I said, I need the missing man table. And she's like, oh, hold on just a minute. And she turns herself around, oh, it's right here. And I said, she found it in all this pile of junk? And you know I love you. But we talked about this already. She knew I was gonna say this. And so it just opened up my eyes. First of all, when I walked in to see capable and incapable people all working together, and like a well-oiled machine. And the first thing that it made me think about was Martin Luther King, I have a dream that all people will be treated as one. And I said, we've always looked at it as color, but it goes far beyond color. It goes to the very human soul, to being accepted that if I have one arm that's longer than the other, if I have no arm, if I have a leg that's longer, a leg that's shorter, or I have no leg, that I still want to be treated the same way, with dignity and with respect. And that's what Disability Advocates did for me. You know, to have to depend on other people. I want to say thank you to my First Lady, to her adjutants, to my father, my daughter who's here, and of course to my wonderful son right here. I traveled with her for 3 years. We went across the state of Michigan preaching, teaching, and saving lives and saving souls. And that was taken away from me. And I just thought that I could never be used again. And what could I do being here in this chair? I could never impact anybody else. Nobody would ever believe that life can be wonderful being in this chair. What can I tell them? What would they believe? Because the first thing that people do when they look at you, they say, oh my gosh, I feel so sorry. I can hear. There's nothing wrong with my hearing. Like, I can hear you talking about me. I just want you to know, I can hear you. You know, but they just seem to think that, you know, if there's some sort of abnormality about you that you can't hear, that you can't see, and that you can't think. And that's not true, because they look at you and say, excuse me, do you need help? And you're just like, no. But I love Disability Advocates because the first thing that Trina did, I was merely existing for almost 2 years. because this is now year 3. And I was just merely existing, didn't think that I could have a life. These ladies here would come and get me dressed for church. They would try to make sure I got to the things that I needed to get to, but I was just merely existing until I walked in that office. And the first thing that she did to me, she said, and I couldn't believe she did it. She just said, so have you been to Art Prize? I said, no, ma'am. Oh, where you're going? And I said, so is there a special place? No, you're gonna get on the bus. The bus? She said, yes, the bus. And you're gonna enjoy it and you're gonna like it. And I just said, they don't look at you as though there's something wrong with you. Yeah. And they never say no, and the possibilities are limitless. Whatever you can think, whatever that you can do, they try to walk alongside you and make sure that that happens. And I am so grateful to have participated with Disability Advocates. I think I just got my little tap. So in the 1 year time that we have been together, we have created, where's Joanne? I have worked with occupational therapy. Everyone has admired this wonderful chair. We sat down and we thought, because my apartment is not handicap accessible to get out, so we had to come up with something that someone could help me with, or I sit on the stairs and I pull myself up along with my chair, that I could do and still be independent, and so we came up with a cyclical driver. That was through Disability Advocates. We sat together and we did it. I have a ramp on the front of my apartment. That doesn't happen on apartment buildings. But, as my favorite saying is, I can tell heaven to God. I can tell, he lives there, but I can tell him how wonderful it is and how he should be there. And he's just like, oh my God, don't I live here already? Yeah, but I can convince him. But I love the fact that whatever you can think to make your life easier, make it better. Sometimes the only thing that's lacking is the money. But if you can think it and you can believe it, they will sit and they will work it through with you and for you. And so, as she looks at me and says, okay, it's about that time, I just want to tell you thank you for allowing me to share my story with you. And hopefully the next time you see someone that's in a wheelchair, you don't holler at them because they really can't hear. Okay.
Wow. You were watching Dr. Kimberly Kennedy, who is here in person with us on Time to Talk, and she was sharing her testimony, really, with Disability Advocates and a special dinner that they have, and she was the impact speaker, which is like the keynote speaker, really, for the event. And you just did a wonderful job.
Yeah.
And you know, in the Bible, Job was afflicted and went through so many things, and he was talking to God. Can you tell us some of the things that you've talked to God about with all of these issues that you've been through, having your head open in surgery 5 times, having a stroke, having cancer, being in a wheelchair, not being able to talk for 3 months, and you're so eloquent right now, and always had been, you know, but so that and many more things.
I think that one of the things that I experienced is that I have contractures in my foot, in my hip, in my arm, and in my, and in my hand. So it turns, which I'm not able to walk like, regular people, and they weren't able to do anything to, with therapy to repair it. And so they said, this is it. And I said, okay, fine. And I'm sorry,
That's all right. That's all right. Just take your time.
That was the first scripture that I went to.
In Job?
Yes. And I think the first time I said, God, why me? And he said, why not you? And I couldn't give him an answer back. I didn't have an answer back. And I began to read, because a lot of times people think that things in the Bible are just stories, that they're not real. And Satan had to go to God. And God said, I believe that no matter what you do to him, he's still going to love me. He's still going to praise me in the midst of all of it. And Satan said, well, that's because he has all these wonderful things and you have a hedge around him. And God said, I'm just going to remove the hedge. And you go, have your way. You just can't kill him. And that was one of the things, you know, for me, is that God didn't allow me to die.
Were there times when you felt like giving up?
I did. I did.
What kept you going?
My kids. My kids. The twins were born at 27 weeks. And so they never expected them to live. And they said if they did, they would probably die by the time that they were a year old, and they would have so many medical issues. They even said that, you know, for my daughter, she would never be able to have children. And so I'm excited. Yes, she's getting ready to have her third one. Shout out to baby Carter.
All right.
Yes.
Praise
And
God.
so I was just really excited about that. And when she had the second baby is when I had my stroke. And so that's what really gave me the incentive to want to go on, and because I wanted to be able to hold her, you know, when she got here. So I have really pushed myself so that I can really enjoy my family. And I think that's what really kept me going, and knowing that no matter what, God had me, and that somebody has to be able to tell the story. You know, we go and we buy a can of pop because somebody endorses it. Somebody drinks a can of pop and they're like, oh my God, this pop is so good. You know, you gotta buy this pop. And so we're all like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy that pop. Woo, yeah, I'm gonna get that pop. And it's the same thing about, you know, having a relationship with God. It's that, oh wow, when they see me, it's like she can still smile. She can still get excited. Okay, well, what does that for you? Well, God does that for me. Well, I want what you have. You know, and it just inspires other people. And, you know, I'll have people come up, and it's interesting that they try to find a way to identify with you. And at the same time, they use those same things as excuses. And I just tell people, no, there's just no excuse. If I can show up, you can show up. You know, so many people will say, oh my God, I got a headache. I said, baby, I have 5 head surgeries with no anesthesia. So a headache, you need to keep it moving. You know, 3 weeks after my head surgery, they put what they call a pressure band on your head when you have surgery. I had 100 stitches.
Whoa.
100 stitches. It was 55 on the inside and 45 on the outside, and then they put this pressure band, and it's supposed to keep you from having a stroke, you know, and to reduce the pressure in your head. And so my son had a football game, and I wrapped, you know, it was already, you know, covered. I put on a couple of extra hats, and I went out there, and I was on the 50-yard line.
Okay.
And I was cheering him on, you know.
Okay. You're living life, and you're still living life.
Oh, yeah.
And you drive yourself where you have to go.
Yeah,
You're building your second home.
Yes.
Many people, I haven't, built the first home. You know, and you're doing for you're dressing wonderful. You even have a lady who makes your clothes.
I do. Shout out, woohoo, to Sue Cleveland, better known as Mason Tone, and she started out with doing sunglasses and jewelry and scarf, and then she wanted to move in to start sewing and doing clothing. So I had just had my stroke, and we sat down and we started talking about what can we do. They don't have clothes that are designed for people who have disabilities. If you have an arm missing, or if you're a quadriplegic or a paraplegic, there's just not really clothing for you. One of the things that when you don't have full use of, you know, your hands or whatever, you don't need buttons, zippers, and you want to try to be independent. So what we did, she made this, of course.
It's beautiful. It's
Yes,
gorgeous.
Yes, yes, yes. We just spent some time together. We looked online to see, you know, what the style was. And, you know, me, I loved dressing. I loved wearing 6-inch heels. And I think a lot of people knew me, oh, she's got them long nails and them 6-inch heels.
Yes,
and I
yes.
said, you know what? Being in a chair is not going to change who Kim is.
Okay.
And so we have come up with, I think, a beautiful couture line for those people who are in wheelchairs. So as you see, everything is just, you know, pull on that I can do one-handed.
Okay. Okay. And so you get around your house, your apartment, just
And I have
pretty fine?
I have a wheelchair that's on the inside that I use to get around in my apartment. And that was one of the things that disability advocates help with, because the average door doesn't fit the width of a wheelchair. So then I still have the problem of trying to get into the bathroom, getting into my bedroom, getting in and out of bed. So between the VA and disability advocates, they found things to make my daily living, you know, a lot easier. So now the VA has made me permanent and totally disabled. So one of the things they do, they have a special adaptive housing. And they go through and they're just gonna build the home and customize it for me, where of course the doors will be wider so that I can just wheel myself around, and nice shower that I can just wheel right in. And I get to have a a roll-in closet.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
With plenty of those beautiful clothes
Yes,
in
clothes
there.
and shoes, that's my thing.
Yes, yes.
Everybody has something, and you know.
And I'm going to have you tell us about your business, Slashes by Yvonne. And our phones are down today, but people are calling and kind of leaving some questions for you. So one of the questions, you know, you did mention that you had a stroke in addition to everything else.
Yes.
And someone wanted to know, what was it like having a stroke? Could you tell that you were having a stroke? Did you know the symptoms?
My head surgeries were like every 6 months. So I never had a time to really fully recuperate from the last surgery, and it was time for the surgery again. So when I had the fifth head surgery, no, my third head surgery, I had a seizure. And it was 3 days. It was 3 days after the third head surgery, and I had a really bad seizure. And they took me to the hospital, and
You had it at home?
I did. I had the seizure
Was
at
someone there?
my whole family.
Oh, good.
Yeah, my whole family. So that kind of, I think, kind of started it. And they took me to the doctor, said I had a concussion, and you know, I had some bleeding in there, but that all of the stitches were intact inside and on the outside. They checked out, and that was fine. So after the fifth head surgery, I still had some swelling. It takes a long time to heal. And so I started to feel like, I don't know, like a throbbing. And it was different than a headache. And I just know right before it, I was trying to speak and I couldn't. And it's like I could see everybody. It was like I was kind of like outside of my body. And it was worse than a headache. And then you kind of feel like a pop. And then that's it. I mean, that's just kind of, you know, how I felt. Like I was talking and I couldn't say anything. And it was like I had a pop in my head. So you know that it was on the right side. So if it happens on the right side, it affects the left side of your body. If you feel it on the left side, it affects your right side of your body.
Where are you now in your recovery process?
Every day you learn how to do something new or something different. I've had to learn how to do things different. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. I really loved the VA you know, being a veteran, they send you down to Battle Creek, and what they do is take you through a whole day, and it's called kind of like a cognitive walkthrough. And so they tell you, you're in your bed. When you get up, what can't you do when you get up? Well, I can't pull myself up. So then the first thing they do, okay, fine, we'll get you something where you can pull yourself up. And then when you get up, what do you do next? And it's like, well, I transfer into my wheelchair. So then they say, okay, then you need something that's going to transfer you out of the bed into the wheelchair. Then it's like, okay, when you go in the bathroom, what do you need in the bathroom that you don't have, only have on one side? And they have this book, it's called Living as a One-Handed Person in a Two-Handed World. And I didn't know the different things that they could make. Like, I have a one-handed can opener. So that I can open up cans with just one hand. Okay. They have a one-handed cutting board. So if you want to
Things you never think of.
Right, you know, so they really encourage you to try to live your best life every single day. And then they find there's so many different tools that they have out there that help you. They even have like a wand that you can attach your toothbrush to, or you can attach your shaver to use to extend, you know, because some people you can't move the way that you want to, so they have extensions on there, and it's just really, really nice.
Are there ever times you feel sorry for yourself?
Yes. Yes.
Just being honest, yeah.
Yes, I do. When I'm by myself, you know, I've fallen quite a many a time.
Oh my.
You know, and sometimes I just lay there and I just laugh, and I'm like, okay, Jesus, it's you and me. Yep, I'll just get up and you figure it out.
Okay.
But I think that I felt sorry for myself because I felt that people didn't understand, and that I felt like I was a burden to everybody else, because it's like, oh, the extra time that you have to take, you know, to get a wheelchair up and out, and it's just a lot sometimes. I like the fact that I got a car now. Whoop, whoop.
Yes, nice. Very nice car at that.
Just a tad bit.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
courtesy of the VA. You know, one of the things that they do get you a vehicle, but you have to be permanently and totally disabled, and then you have to have the loss of a limb. So I have the loss of an upper and a lower, and I was able to get
your arm and your leg.
my arm and my leg.
Okay.
I was able to get a very nice car.
Okay. Earlier we talked about that, you know, there are some funny things and some moments of laughter. And you were in Laugh Fest 2016?
Yeah,
Okay.
2017.
2017.
And then I'll be in there again this year. March
This
14th,
year.
as a matter of fact.
March 14th, that's coming up.
It is.
Okay, what time?
It's going to be Wednesday, March 14th at 7 p.m. And this is a free event, and it's going to be at the Grand Rapids Art Museum.
Okay, and so you're presenting once again. So tell us a little bit about what's funny about being disabled.
So I'm actually single right now, very single.
Okay.
So I'm single, and we all have an idea of the kind of guy that we want, and yeah, that has changed greatly. I just want to know, can you lift a wheelchair?
Okay, that's a prerequisite.
My first thing is, do you love Jesus, and can you lift a wheelchair?
Okay.
So
okay.
that's that's probably like my two top things. Usually we think of other things. I'm not gonna get graphic. I know people are grown, but anyway, sometimes we think of other things, as far as what we want in a mate. And my thing is, all I want to know, do you love Jesus, and can you lift a wheelchair?
Okay. Those are good things. What would you like people to know, especially when they don't even know you, about things to say and not to say when you're just walking up to somebody who has a handicap or appears to have a handicap?
That I I think I can tell this joke. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's kind of clean.
Go for
We
it.
can talk about
Go
okay.
for it.
So, my joke is that people, I don't understand why they want to identify with you. I mean, that doesn't make me feel better about myself, you know, and you're not really being helpful. And I always tell people, it's just like when you go to church and Susie stands up, you know, yay, you know, Susie's all wonderful. Susie used to be an ex-prostitute, you know, was on drugs, and now she's saved and she just loves the Lord. And then we got Kimberly. Yeah, oh yeah, Kimberly came to church. Yep, she's here and she's handicapped. So after church, you know, people come up and say, oh my gosh, you know what? Back in 1972, I used to be in a wheelchair too because I was skiing and I broke my ankle. Okay, that doesn't equate to having a stroke, and this is my life.
Yes.
You know, or people come up to me and say, you know what? Oh my gosh, I just had so much stress and I lost all my hair. And I said, really? You know, losing your hair because you had stress is not the same thing as you have a tumor, it causes you to lose all of your hair, and your hair is not coming back. You know, stop being stressed, your hair will grow. Or it's like, oh my gosh, so you had 5 head surgeries? I said, yeah. And did it hurt? I said, it did. You know, I get headaches all the time. I'm sorry, a headache is not the same as having 5 head surgeries with no anesthesia. So I just think that it's funny how people just want to, and I guess they're trying, but I don't want you to see that. I'm still just Kim, I'm still just a person. You know, you don't have to, we don't have to talk about it. We really don't. We don't have to talk about it. And normally I have my, you know, my foot pedals as I'm going around. I've had people just come up to me and try to straighten out my foot. And it's like, I don't walk up to anybody. Well, I can't walk up to you anyway, but I don't think anyone has ever walked up to you and just said, oh, well, let me just adjust you. You know what I mean? Without asking your permission. And that's some of the things that I guess that probably ticks me off the most, that people don't ask my permission to come into my space. And my chair is all of my space.
Right, exactly.
You know, it's a part of me. And so I've had people just walk up to me and try to, your foot is crooked. And I'm like I didn't know that when I got in the chair. You know, so.
Yeah. Tell us about the, I'm calling it a shift.
Yeah, it is. This is called a cyclical driver, and so it controls all 4 of the tires. It has a forward, a neutral, and a reverse.
Wow, it's like a car.
It is, and it's really, really nice. I enjoy it. I mean, I have some great arm strength there.
Got those muscles, those
Yes.
biceps and triceps going?
They are going.
Okay. So do you go into schools and organizations and churches and speak if people want you to?
I do. I do. I really appreciate my pastor, Reverend Robert Dean at New Life Church of God in Christ, 1072 Jefferson Street, Southeast. We got church.
He's a blessing.
Did I put a plug in?
Yes, that is fine. You know, we all about Reverend Dean up in here.
I put a plug in. You know, I really love and appreciate him. I did have my stroke at church at 6 a.m. prayer. And so they told me, he said he saw me. He said, you were trying to speak. And he said, I saw that face twist up. He said, your eyes rolled in the back of your head. And he said, that arm and that leg went up like this. And you know, he had them to catch me before I fell. And he put my head in his lap and just began to pray. And so I'm thankful. You know, he said, we're gonna pray to get that face, make sure that face is good, you know. And I do have a little bit of paralysis in my face because I had surgery actually 3 months ago today.
Wow.
Yeah, they found lesions on my jaw bones, and so they took out sections of my jaw.
Okay.
And so I'm talking really good today.
Yes, you are. You really are.
Yeah.
You really are. Just tell us about your prayer life.
Oh my gosh. I'll be on the prayer line tonight. I pray and I ask God just to give me the strength to continue to motivate other people. One of the things that I say and I'm gonna kind of, let's see, move back. And that's how if I think they can get that on camera, how my foot is. And the contracture, how you can see the contracture, you know, in my foot, and you see the contracture in my arm. And I say, this is how my heart was. It was contracted and contorted from all the things that have happened to me. And when I got like this, I really prayed and I asked God to heal me from the inside out. And I said, God, if you're not gonna heal me out of this chair, then you need to heal my heart. And so the Lord has just really healed my heart. And the outside is just a reflection of what the inside used to look like. And so there are so many people who are crippled on the inside. I mean, you see on the outside, but they're walking around like this on the inside. And I said, don't feel sorry for me, because I don't look like this right here. You know, God has restored my heart and my mind, and I just have an excitement and a love for him. And I just love, it's like being in a relationship. I mean, that's what it is with God, is that you're in this relationship, and I just begin to see so many different sides to him, how he comes in and how he did talk to Job. You know, when he told Job, he said, God said, where were you when I created the heavens and the earth and the stars? You know, because Job had a moment there. You know. Yeah. He had a moment, and I have those moments. But then God says, my grace is sufficient for you. My grace is sufficient.
And then later on, Job said, though he slay me,
Yes.
yet will I trust
Will
him.
I trust him?
Yes. Wow, our time has gone
It
so
has.
fast.
I know, and we didn't even get to
Your
do
eyelash
it.
business.
Like, wow, you see that?
Lashes
Yes.
by Kayvon.
I actually have my own lip gloss.
Okay.
Yes,
That you've
gloss by
produced,
Kayvon.
okay.
I do have my own label. And then I have the wonderful lashes there.
Okay.
I call them a pair and a spare.
Okay.
So you get two, and you can get them just all black, or you can actually get a design on them, which
Okay.
I have diamonds on mine. You know me.
I know. That's how you roll. That's how you
I
go.
roll.
Yes.
Yeah,
And how
I
can
have
people
diamonds on
get them?
But-
What's your connection? Your website or?
www.lashesbykavon.com.
And you're actually helping other women to go into business as well.
Yes,
Okay.
because I actually, you know, I have a cousin who's in college, and you know, those girls, they love to do lashes, and so I told her, hey, you sell them. All she has to do is sell them. They put there's a comment section when you go online, put your name on there, and I'll send you, you know, everybody's got the Cash App, and I'll give you your commission, you know, for selling the lashes.
All right.
So we got 100, I have over 42 different styles of lashes, and I have 110 different colors. I even have some black light activators, so for those who like to be in a club, you know, you can.
Oh, wow. Okay,
know.
okay. So, say your motto for us again before we close.
No matter how you feel, get up, dress up, never give up, and show up.
Okay.
And I wish you would show up in Lashes by Kayvon.
All
But
right.
my favorite one that you know, people always know my little tagline on social media. I say, going through in style with grace and a smile on my face.
All right. Dr. Kimberly Kennedy, thank you so much
Yes,
for
you are
being on
welcome.
Time to Talk.
Yes,
and you
I
have
love
to
it.
come back again.
We will.
Yes,
Yeah, I
yes.
will.
And thank you for watching, and thank you for motivating me. I had a little small accident, now I could consider it small, and busted out all my teeth. And I said, I'm not going on TV, and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
But you inspired me, and you encouraged me, so I'm not even worried about it. All right. Thank you so much.
I love you.
Love you too. And love all of you. Thank you for watching. Time.